Here's the video I've been wanting to make for a really long time. I read books, scientific studies, everything in order to show what exactly Revive mouthguard does and how. Now, for those of you that never heard about Revive, it's basically a silicone flat double-braced mouthguard, similar to ones used in training. So it's even possible that you maybe already use it, but for a different purpose. Revive is a mouthguard that was initially used by its founder, Ken Lever, to heal his TMJ. And when he managed to improve it and heal completely, he noticed additional benefits of wearing an oral splint, such as changes in the jaw position, soft tissue, posture, movement, health, and forward growth of his face. Once he shared his experience with other people, they had the same experience. Sometimes they got even more dramatic changes than the founder of it himself. So one of those people was me. I was lucky enough to be among the first ones to ever try it out, right? And currently I've been using it for 7 or 8 months. So in addition to all the studies, I'm also going to include my own experience in this video, as well as pictures and testimonies from people in the Revive community that currently counts almost 2,000 people. For those of you who heard about Revive before, but maybe in a negative context, firstly, I recommend that you absolutely never listen to that person ever again, and I hope you stay open-minded during this video, because that's the most important thing in science. I have a master's degree in experimental biology. I studied biology for 5 years, even published studies, and still I never met anyone in this field more close-minded than those teens in this community who want to be perceived as credible sources, trying to debunk anything that doesn't make sense to them. It's incredibly easy to debunk anything, since we have studies done on absolutely every possible topic under the sun, but it's much harder to prove that something does work. That's why, despite failed tries, scientists always keep repeating the same experiment, like again and again and again, in order to reduce the bias, find a standardized protocol that would achieve the same results every single time, and to finally achieve consensus on the topic. So yeah, it's incredibly important that you actually choose your sources and don't let just anyone plant seeds of doubt. Now, with that being said, despite Revive mouthguard not being a subject of any study in particular, there have been studies on just usual normal mouthguards and oral splints exactly like Revive. And those studies show the effect that mouthguards have on facial structure, occlusion, posture, overall biomechanics. So this video is going to unite all the existing evidence that proves the effectiveness of some type of oral splint, or specifically Revive, in healing biomechanics. First false belief that people have is that Revive, as a concept of using mouthguards to improve the posture and facial structure, that it's a completely new thing with absolutely no scientific background. Now, that's very false, and it shows why it's incredibly dangerous to blindly follow anyone's opinion and to not double check all the information that's been provided. That's why talking openly about what Revive really is, how exactly it works, it's incredibly important in order for us to become more familiar with the entire idea. As I mentioned, oral splints are already a thing, and they've been used for quite a while. They've been used since at least the 17th century, when they were used to stabilize the jaw, often after some kind of injury. By the more modern use of oral splints for things like improving occlusion, symmetry, and posture, that started to take off in the 20th century. One milestone was when a French dental surgeon introduced an appliance called monoblock. It was basically a device designed to hold the lower jaw forward and keep a mouth a bit open, and it helped manage airways, which in a sense set the foundation for splints that are used in sleep medicine today. So basically, splints went from stabilizing the structure to improving the function of a structure. And as time went on, especially around mid-20th century, dental professionals realized that splints can do more than just help with airway issues. By adjusting the jaw position, they can improve occlusion, okay, so just the way that teeth come together, and that they can even enhance facial aesthetics and posture. Some of those appliances are called functional appliances, such as twin block and myobrace. Twin block works by gently shifting the lower jaw forward, which changes the way that jaw joints and muscles work. And it also creates a gentle pressure on the upper jaw. Now, this pressure over time encourages the upper jaw to grow and expand, especially in growing patients. My brace, on the other hand, it works by using a removable plastic trays to help guide the teeth and jaws into a better position. One study from 2023 compared those two appliances in 9 to 12-year-olds with class 2 malocclusions. And after 6 months, the mandible grew forward and the bite relationship improved in each appliance group. So basically both devices caused, significant enlargement of the children's airway, but the twin block produced a larger increase in the upper airways or upper airway space than the myobrace. But basically both appliances were pretty much, effective in expanding the airway and reducing the severity of jaw protrusion. Although this study in particular was done on kids, use of those appliances is not limited to kids only, and both twin block and myobrace, they shown great results in palatal expansion in adults as well. From biomechanical perspective, if something affects the occlusion and the position, or it expands the palate basically, that means that it affects the entire body in a process, right? Because body functions as one unit. So when one part of the body changes its structure, the entire body has to realign in order to keep the structural balance and the balance, structural function and a balance. That would be a better way to put it. Some parts obviously experience more severe realignment, some parts minor, but it's always present. It's similar to how when you're trying to keep some weirdly shaped object, stable, you need to twist it and play with it, in order to distribute the weight evenly on both sides so that it keeps standing, so that it's stable basically. It's similar to how body works, but it's far more complex with body, obviously. Body will rotate the bones in all kinds of directions in order to maintain perfect balance and keep the function. And when that balance point is off for whatever reason, the body compensates further, which often results in forward head posture or rib flare, scapula flare, other compensations that we often refer to as symmetry. Initially, that was basically just an observation from posturologists, let's say, but upon further biomechanical research, they concluded that it happens because of the neuromuscular connections between different parts of the body. For instance, between the jaw position and neck posture. In one such study in 2020, they explored whether raising the bite with a mouthguard changes posture in adults. The study was unfortunately highly biased since no one controlled for how long the participants wore a mouthguard. So that means that pretty much maybe they only use it for a few minutes a day, if at all. So basically most of the measurements showed no significant difference. However, static and dynamic balance of the participants were still significantly better after 8 weeks of mouthguard use, despite of highly uncontrolled settings and poorly executed study. So I included this study in the video because even though it's a poorly done study, right, it still showed some significant effect of mouthguard on the balance of the body, which made scientists wonder what the full effect of wearing an all splint could be and what kind of effect it would have on the body, right? So yeah, they basically called for recreating the study on a larger sample size in more controlled settings. And then 2 years after that, a similar study was repeated. So scientists here tested a custom mandibular splint designed to hold the jaw in neutral centric relation, which is often, considered ideal alignment in healthy adults. So they basically measured neck range of motion and stand stability with and without the splint. With the splint in place, participants showed significant gains in cervical spine mobility They also achieve increase in neck rotation and in lateral bending range compared to normal bite. And in addition to that, wearing the splint immediately improved their balance. Basically, they would test their balance improvement by measuring the sway area. So the sway area of the center of pressure was pretty much reduced by 30% in two-leg stance and 28% in single or one-leg stance. Compared to no splint, right? So yeah, something also very interesting is that wearing the splint shortened the center of pressure travel in a sagittal plane, basically indicating much steadier posture. And the authors also concluded that maintaining an optimized jaw position, that it can also relieve strain on the craniocervical musculature, which obviously causes increase in neck mobility and postural stability. What that means in practical terms is that a dental splint that raises the bite or adds a dental height and pushes your jaw to correct alignment, it might help align the head and neck posture, potentially even aiding athletic coordination and reducing tension in the neck. So yeah, naturally studies continued in that direction, just challenging the use of oral splints and seeing how much it can actually, help. For instance, one systematic review from 2022, they examined whether flat plane night guards influence body posture in patients with temporomandibular disorders. And the review found that overall, wearing a splint tended to improve spinal postural measures in TMD patients. For example, it would reduce the forward head position or it would improve weight distribution, which again obviously is incredibly important for both symmetry and development. Now, conclusion and final opinion on the use of oral splints is obviously not definitive, right? But occlusal splints are today a common, conservative even treatment for TMJ dysfunction. And practitioners are obviously, aware that aligning the bite may help alleviate certain postural imbalances in their patients. Therefore, splints are used, all right, not only in dentistry but also in physiotherapy and PRI. Now, for those of you who are maybe interested in the beauty aspect of splints more, we still don't have a lot of studies on flat splints affecting facial development and symmetry, but some studies do exist. One such study is the effect of Korean medical treatment for facial asymmetry. In that study, they treated 5 people with facial and body asymmetry using their protocol for basically manipulating bones, such as osteopathic techniques and just other techniques for relieving tension in the body, realigning the bones, and similar to that. Also, they use a bite down splint and a flat oral splint as crucial part of the therapy. Now, unlike most previous studies, this one was actually highly controlled with precise measurements, x-rays. It's just a perfect study, right? And they managed to get significant improvements in body symmetry, facial symmetry as well in all 5 of their patients. Dental splints usually play a very important part in those kinds of protocols because they even out TMJ load. They're also used to ensure proper teeth contact, optimal jaw position, and basically just stimulate the trigeminal nerve. All of which again impacts the symmetry and facial structure very positively. Knowing about biomechanics, orthotropics, osteopathy, and all the other related fields, and I also understand how body works. So basically knowing all that, it made sense to me that fixing all those things would influence the facial realignment in terms of forward movement, at least to a certain degree. So I basically decided to test it out and see how much it's going to affect my forward growth. So what I did is basically I made a bite down splint and I wore it for about 3 hours a day maybe, and for the entire night. And very soon, my face started moving forward rapidly. But then over time, the progress just slowed down and it eventually stopped. Also, I didn't really like, not being able to freely move my lower jaw while doing any activity because your bite is locked down, right? Because you're wearing a bite down splint. So yeah, I didn't like any of that. And that's when I switched to Revive mouthguard that's flat. So immediately when I used it the first time, I felt a stretch across the entire side of my face, and I got a headache that lasted for a couple of minutes basically. And honestly, it felt like my body was just shocked. Like all of a sudden, I changed the way it was being programmed for a long time, because my face was used to, being recessed, like having the bite or bite. So now, when I added dental height and actually had proper teeth contact, this was a shock for my system. And then after a few days, my jawline just started becoming sharper day by day. I literally used to have a jowl right here, because of the recessed jaw, and today that's completely gone basically. So yeah, my jawline became very prominent all of a sudden when I literally changed nothing else in my routine. I only added Revive. That's it. Although obviously, as many of you know, I did practice other techniques before Revive, mewing, thumb pulling, face pulling, all those things. I practiced that before Revive and with Revive, but that never had that huge effect all of a sudden on my jawline. And once I added Revive, then it happened. And that's, for example, something that I never found any study on. Like I never found any study on the effect of the splint on facial growth, but I experienced it. And that's when I got in the Revive community, and I saw even crazier testimonies than mine. Actually, let's go through some of them now, because I want to show you that I was not the only one that got results, okay? So basically, this boy, he got results in 5 months. And I know some of you won't be able to tell what exactly is different here. Some may say it's a different angle, and stuff like that. And yes, of course, angle is a little bit different. We can all see it, but I understand why it's different. When your cervical spine changes, and 5 months is more than enough, enough time for it to change, then you simply can't recreate the same position no matter how hard you're trying. It's similar to how two different people, for example, will never be able to completely recreate the same position perfectly, because their structure and mobility is simply different, and it doesn't allow that, So same here, completely different biomechanics and a different structure. But what we can see clearly is that his face moved up and forward, right? And the way his lips come together in after photo is clearly way different than before. So yeah, he's basically using completely different muscles. And you can also see his neck looks longer because of that as well. So it's like everything changes at once, right? And that's why it's harder to see a difference here than, for example, when someone gets a surgery and then just one feature changes and the rest stays the same. When you're healing your structure, facial structure naturally, everything will change at the same time, which in my opinion looks really beautiful, and no procedure can beat those results. Literally, just give that boy another 5 months, and I believe no one's gonna be able to deny his results. It's I don't know, it's just that I'm able to see it even now, right? Because I kind of train my eye to see those subtle changes since I went through that journey myself. But for those of you who really couldn't see any difference on him, here's another case where the face came up and forward. Muscle use has changed as well, and the jawline became more prominent in just 2 months. This kind of reminds me of how fast my jawline became prominent as well. And honestly, I can already tell that this girl in particular, she's gonna have a huge change in her nose, because she lacks a lot of counterclockwise rotation of the maxilla. So now her nose is going up. It's going to become basically more upturned as her face upswings. So yeah, I feel like it's different, to witness those changes on others when you actually went through it yourself, and that makes me really, really proud of them, and of everyone who really starts, improving their structure naturally, because it's such a new thing to do, and something that's so interesting to witness. So yeah. Also, by the way, just in case those two transformations didn't impress you, I think that this next one is going to. Am I right? Honestly, like barely anything can surprise me at this point, but this transformation is just wild because he literally expanded his palate and almost perfectly straightened his teeth in just 6 months. For example, I had braces for 3 years and I ended up looking like this, and it didn't even straighten my teeth at all. So yeah, for him to just, achieve all that with a simple mouthguard and some tampon, that's crazy. And that's exactly why it's so important to talk about, alternatives to orthodontic treatments, including orthotropics, including revive and all the other methods of working with the body, instead of extractions and other invasive, harmful treatments. It doesn't make sense to me. Like if something doesn't expand your airways, if you have to lose even parts of your structure for the treatment to work, and then on top of all of that, you're left with bad structure and bad function, how is that a better option? Really makes zero sense. And that's exactly why Revive and others suggesting alternative solutions, they deserve way more recognition. And I'm very glad that there's actually a Revive community where all those testimonies are being gathered at a moment, and where people day by day report how their sleep quality, energy, beauty, general health is improving. So yeah, that way basically people will know that they do have alternative, and hopefully they won't end up having extractions, surgeries, or something invasive. As I said in the very beginning of the video that I started wearing Revive for aesthetic purposes mostly, but I'm literally witnessing people healing their TMJ, sleep apnea, and just other serious conditions like that, and that made me realize that Revive probably holds, even greater importance for people struggling with all those issues than it ever had for me. So yeah, if you're interested in starting Revive, I will leave the link to the mouthguards, and everything in the description of the video. You can also join the Revive community there, because it has almost, I'm not sure if I said, it has almost 2,000 members, I believe, and they post their progress every single day. You can also find a lot of tips and just additional techniques that speed up the results with Revive. I saw in that community people heal very suspiciously a wide range of diseases and symptoms. Like people are reversing their bad orthodontic treatments, recessed face, narrow airways, and all the other consequences of the treatment. And I will also make a very detailed video on my experience with Revive soon. But yeah, just in case you want to check out more testimonies or start the journey yourself, everything will be down below. Oh, and by the way, I'm very active on Instagram lately, so if you haven't followed me there, I will link it down below as well. I answer questions often there, and just engage with you more. So yeah, you can find me there. And that's pretty much everything for this video, and I will see you in the next one.
Living life every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Fuck me, I'm looking in the mirror, so foggy, but I've never seen clearer. I don't really think anyone can save me.